You're a mum, you're a mum, you're a busy mum. Come listen to the Busy Mum podcast. Life hacks and inspiration for the busy modern mum.
Hi and welcome to the Busy Mum podcast. I am your host, Jackie DeCampo. This podcast's sole focus is to interview busy mums and sometimes dads that usually have a business or at the very least a bustling side hustle. We cover areas like why they got into business in the first place, what their greatest lessons are or fear is, and how to overcome that. We talk all things marketing, advertising, systems, processes, cash flow, which is my favorite part, whether they have a product-based business or a service-based business, and all things related to business. And also, we talk about how they manage it with a family life as well. A little bit about me. I'm 38 years old, married to Ben DeCampo. We have 2 daughters. I am a co-founder of Milkman Grooming Co. I host this podcast and I am a mad keen gardener. If you want to share your story, please reach out, or if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, again, please reach out. My packages are very reasonable. My email is thebusymumpodcast, that's M-U-M, podcast @gmail.com. Now let's dive into this bloody fantastic episode. Okay, so Jessica, welcome to the Busy Mum podcast. How are you this morning?
Thank you. I'm really good, thanks. It's good to be here talking to you.
Yeah, ditto. So can you just tell us a little bit about you, your business, and how you got started?
Yes, sure. So I live in South Australia, so I'm about an hour south of Adelaide on the beautiful Fleurieu Peninsula. It's a really lovely kind of not very well known part of Australia.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful beaches and great fresh produce, and yeah, it's a good place to live. So I've got 2 kids. I've got an 11-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And so professionally, I'm a naturopath, and so I see clients, in clinic and over Skype. I'm doing more and more sort of Skype work now, because I'm sort of putting myself out there more online. My business is Natural Super Kids. And so Natural Super Kids is all about inspiring and informing mums, busy mums, to take care of their kids' health and nutrition, but in really sort of realistic, easy to implement ways. So because I'm a mum myself, I sort of, know what it's like that all mums are juggling a million things. And so I try and make the content that I create and the advice that I give, really easy to follow. Okay. I sometimes say that I feel sorry for the clients that I had as a naturopath before I became a mum, because I used to, dish out very unrealistic advice. And so, we serve lots, mums with basically any mum that is feeding a child will find value in the content at Natural Super Kids. We have a lot of mums with kids with allergies and eczema and asthma and autism, ADHD, all of these kind of chronic kids' health conditions that are on the rise. And all of these conditions, can be really helped by simple diet and lifestyle changes. So that's what we're all about. We also have lots of mums that have fussy eaters and mums that just want to really, boost the nutrition so their kids are as healthy as possible.
So what would be your top 3 bits of advice you would give to those mums? Because I had one of those children that wouldn't eat anything except for chips and nuggets. We basically, we went military on her. We were like, you eat this half a cherry tomato, otherwise there's no water or no food until you eat that. So yeah, 24 hours she went. She was that stubborn. In the end, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. But my husband got her to eat that half a tomato. But since that point, she knows now if she doesn't eat it, there's nothing else until, she eats it.
So, it's tricky because, what works for one child when it comes to that fussy, picky eating will not work for another. And obviously, some kids are very stubborn. So generally, my approach is to just make sure that there's plenty of good, healthy food and you're serving everyone the same meal. That's the big thing, the amount.
I don't do that. Oh my God. That makes me go.
It's so common. The amount of mums that I talk to that say, they make this meal for this child because they won't eat this, and this meal for this child because they won't eat this. I mean, it's too much for us mums to try and deal with. So I'm all for serving, pretty much the same meal to everyone, maybe a slightly different version, and having an expectation, that they will eat it, but not, I'm not into force feeding at all.
Hold the head, open the mouth, shove it in.
Yeah, well, exactly. I know some mums, definitely feel like doing that, but the research shows that exposure to variety of foods is really what works long term. So even just having the food on the table in front of them, even if they're not eating it, if they're smelling it, even if they lick it, touch it, play with it, that's all steps in the right direction to getting them to eventually eat it.
Yeah.
It can be a long road, though, for some kids, depending on what's going on. There's also all kinds of underlying sort of imbalances that can drive fussy and picky eating. Gut health is one of them. So if there's an imbalance in gut health, then kids are going to be pickier and fussier and want the more starchy, carby type foods. And another one is zinc deficiency. So low zinc levels can lead to more fussy, picky eating. So these are the things that sort of it's good to look at. Another one in terms of kids sort of eating more variety of food is getting them involved in the kitchen, in the shopping, in, growing some food in the garden. Again, that exposure of touching food and helping with the stirring and the cooking is really helpful. And again, it doesn't always, work straight away. When I give this advice, some mums will come back and say, well, they helped make the fish patties, but then they didn't eat them, so it didn't work. But it doesn't mean you should sort of give up. You should just get them involved in the food prep and sourcing food, get them to pick a new vegetable that they might want to try or help prepare every week. That sort of thing can really help as well.
You just reminded me then, my daughter said, Mum, I want to try a white peach. You need to go buy me a white peach. I'm like, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's 9, and I think at 8 and 9, they kind of, I don't know, they're more open to trying that. But like anything before 5, I found really difficult. But then saying that, anything up to 18 months I found quite easy because they were like, shove it in there, mess it around,
Open their mouth for anything.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like, it's almost like a life cycle of a child's food, relationship to food or something like that you kind of go, oh my God, and I'm sure it's going to change. And I know you said also to, just serve one meal. Now, serving, like I'll do a pasta meal, say spaghetti, but my 9-year-old will eat it, but my 6-year-old doesn't like the meat, and I'll be like, so I put like a tiny little scoop of meat on there, and then I'll put veggies on the other side, and she goes, oh, can I eat all the veggies but not the meat? So like, what is it with children just not eating meat? Like my children especially, they don't eat the red meat. They'll eat all like fish and chicken, but the red meat, they just kind of like, if I gave them a steak, I think they would fall over and have a heart attack. Like, and isn't there, there's iron, and I don't know if there's zinc in steak, but
yes, there is.
Yeah. So if they're not getting that, like how do I get them to eat that?
Yeah, no, and this is a really common, problem or concern or challenge. So, you hear it from mums like you that are saying they won't eat the meat. And my daughter's quite particular with the sort of, she's not a big meat eater either, but she'll eat, all the veggies on her plate first. And then there's the mums that say, my kids will eat all the meat, but then they'll leave all the veggies. So our kids have got these sort of natural preferences. And it's just about sort of serving them, the stuff that the family is eating. And I think what you're doing is perfect in that sort of, altering the meal based on what their food preferences are. Look, kids can be completely healthy without red meat. We can get zinc and iron from other sources. And especially if they're eating chicken and fish, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Protein is, really another really important part of meat, but we can get that through red meat, white meat, fish, eggs, nuts, lentils. So it's about sort of knowing the the basics of what makes up a healthy meal and getting a bit creative as a mum in terms of making sure that that balance stays right even when they're not wanting to eat a certain food like red meat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I've also got a nut allergy kid. Like nuts are perfect and I miss nuts. I really do, but we've kind of made a decision as a family not to have any more nuts in the house just because she's not anaphylactic, but you know, it could go that way. We just don't know enough about that nut allergy. All the only thing we know is that she's got it. The youngest one's got it, and it's like it puts you on edge a little bit with those types of foods because you're just like, okay, she's had it. She's had the 2 tests already, and you think, should we even bother for the 3rd test in 2 years' time because it's probably going to come up again that she's still allergic and have to put her through that horrible process.
It's not nice.
It's not. No, it's awful. It's ugh.
Yeah,
it's icky.
And so seeds can make a good alternative. Things like hemp seeds are great, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds. So that could be something that you incorporate into her diet rather than the nuts. Very similar sort of nutrient profiles. But yeah, nuts are, they're a very convenient snack.
They're great. I miss them dearly. And my eldest daughter loves pistachios. Of course, they're one of the most expensive nuts you can buy. Love her to bits. Okay, so you were saying you're in the middle of a launch at the moment. What are you launching in your business, Natural Super Kids?
So I'm launching my membership site, the Natural Super Kids Club. And so this has been I started this nearly 2 years ago. And it's, I just love it. It's transformed the way that my business runs, having a membership site, and I just love that community building. We've got members in there that started with us right from the start, and they're still in there, and we add new members a couple of times a year. And so, it's really a one-stop shop for mums for all of the, information and inspiration that they need to raise healthy and happy kids. So we provide meal plans and recipes and short, sharp videos that sort of talk through specifics. Like we have a boosting immunity video and a strategies for fussy eating video, reducing food additives. We've got lots of parenting experts interviews in there. There's just so much stuff in there, and we add to it every single week. We add more content. So the members get access to all of that. And the best thing about the whole program is the community. So we have a private Facebook group, and that's where all the members kind of get to ask questions. I do a weekly Ask the Naturopath session where I answer their questions. And obviously we do lots of sort of just general mum chatting in there about challenges people are having, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because to go and see a naturopath one-on-one, it can get quite expensive, can't it?
It can, yes. So, I charge $220 for an initial consultation, and my membership program, the Natural Super Kids Club, is $28 a month. So it's a huge, it's a huge difference.
And it's like for that one, you can see you for 1 hour. I suppose that's probably what you think your fee covers, or you could probably sign up and get pretty much 12 months worth of content and information for the same price.
Exactly.
That's price comparison. It's a great way.
It's definitely a good way of looking at it. I'll have to be putting that on my sales page.
Would you rather 1 hour or 12 months subscription?
12 months, yeah. And you do get all of the, it's those ongoing resources that us busy mums need. Some just getting that recipe inspiration. We have a resident nutritionist that creates all of the recipes now. I was doing it all, but I just could not keep up.
Why not? It's just add another thing to the pile. So when you run your business, I'm assuming you're using some apps in the business. Which are the apps that you just can't live without?
Oh gosh, there's so many. So one of my favorites is Asana. Like I know probably a lot of your listeners, use and like Asana. Look, I've been using Asana for a while, but I started growing my team about mid last year and hired 3 people. And Asana has just been so good in terms of that's where we do all of our communicating. I can set tasks for them. They can set tasks for me, which I love. I love it when my virtual assistant sets me a task, reminds me to, do something. And I just love the way that you can, I just use recurring tasks a lot in Asana. So those things that you need to do every week, but, sometimes you forget or whatever, Asana allows you to set a recurring task so that you can, so it keeps coming back every week. So love, love, love Asana. Canva is another one I use a lot.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of my image creation anymore. My virtual assistant does, but she uses Canva. And I even do, I did a webinar this week and I do all my slides on Canva. Evernote I use quite a lot, mainly for sort of web clipping and screenshots. And saving articles that I want to share on social media, that sort of thing. What else do I use? Zoom I love for webinars.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually film a lot of my videos for my membership program on Zoom, and just because it allows you to have the slides and then your face in the corner, and then upload those to Vimeo and embed them in my website. So I use that quite a lot.
Look at you, fancy pants. I love it. Vimeo. So not YouTube? You didn't. So why Vimeo over YouTube?
So Vimeo allows you to have your privacy settings set more higher. So because my members are paying, I don't want the videos to be sort of out there for everyone to see. So that's why I've chosen Vimeo over YouTube. I think YouTube does have a privacy setting, but from what I've read, it's not as sort of secure as Vimeo is.
Okay, that's a good point. I used to use Evernote years and years ago, and then I think I must have swapped phones a few times, and then it just fell off,
Yes.
But that's basically where, it's Evernote. It's there forever, correct? You just got to log in.
Yeah, and it's got a great search term as well. So if you've even, business stuff. So if I sign up for something and I come across a thank you page that I think, oh, that's a cool idea, then I'll just sort of save it in Evernote, and then I can search, it's got a really good search function. So it's easy to find things. I don't keep things very organized in Evernote. I could probably be better at that. It's just kind of all in a big folder.
Just scroll down.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll find it eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that you're a naturopath and you specialize in that, but you also mentioned child eczema, kids with ADHD, or gut health problems. Can we talk a little bit more about that? So how does food affect, say, let's start with child eczema, what certain foods would make that flare up?
Yes, great question. So eczema, I always talk about eczema is essentially really a gut and immune problem, not a skin problem. So I don't really recommend using creams. Obviously creams are sometimes necessary for eczema, but that's not where my focus is when I'm treating eczema. It's all about building up gut health and balancing the immune system. So eczema is essentially, a confused immune system that's reacting to either foods in the diet or environmental substances, which is creating this sort of problem with the skin. And so there are lots of different trigger foods that can be involved in eczema. The most common one that I find is dairy, and it's not always, there's not always a problem with dairy, but often that's the place that I will start, eliminating dairy sort of for a period of about 6 weeks and seeing what effect that has. I also like to make sure that we're focusing on building up gut health. So I think as naturopaths, we have a bit of a bad name. If you go and see a naturopath, you're going to leave with a whole big list of foods that you're not allowed to eat anymore. And so that can be a little bit, sad and boring. So I really try and minimize food exclusion or food elimination, because our digestive systems should be able to deal with these foods. dairy and gluten are two that are sort of questionable because of the commercial sort of production of these foods has led to them not being very well tolerated by us. But as a general rule, we don't want to be eliminating, lots of different foods because that's not really getting to the core of the problem. So food intolerances and eczema and food sensitivities really are symptoms that the gut isn't working as effectively as it should. So it's really, really important to make sure that we're building up gut health and working on that immune balance while we're potentially eliminating, a few foods to see what sort of effect that has.
Okay, so with gut health, like how do you not have it? Like what's the thing that really destroys it in the first place?
Okay, so there's lots. I love this question
Sorry.
because it's one of my passions. I did a webinar this week on exactly this topic. So we were talking about gut health, and I was using the analogy of a gut health garden. And so if we think about our kids' gut health and our gut health as a garden, and there's certain things within our modern day diet and lifestyle that are sort of sterilizing our kids' gut health garden. And so these are things like sugar, processed food, particularly refined wheat, and those two things often go hand in hand in, lots of processed kids' snacks and muesli bars and cereals and, crappy bread that we may be packing in our kids' lunch boxes. So they are destroying the good bugs in our guts. There's also quite a few lifestyle things as well. So anything that's antibacterial. So those hand sanitizers, I'm rubbing my hands together as I'm speaking about the hand sanitizers, are terrible. Like that, so they're antibacterial, right? So they kill bacteria, and we use them as mums potentially to keep our kids safe from germs. But I kind of cringe when I see all the kids lining up at kindy or school and the teachers squirting a little bit of hand sanitizer to get the kids' hands clean before lunchtime, and then they're grabbing their sandwich. So they're inevitably going to be consuming some of this antibacterial chemical, which is going into their guts, and it's antibacterial, so it's going to be killing off the good bugs. So that's just one example of, a personal care product that is really widely used these days that are destroying our kids' gut health.
I only use that stuff when you're on an aeroplane. Like that
Yes.
that stuff, I'm like, I'm sorry, that's when it's coming out, because those toilets, and there's just a lot of different people walking through that area that you just kind of go,
I hear you.
I'll take it
and
there.
I agree. So sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry, that's where we'll actually use that product the most.
Yeah, and I agree there's a time and a place. Like we went to Bali last year and I took a little bottle of hand sanitizer with us there. If there is gastro going through our house, I'll definitely get, an antibacterial spray or antibacterial hand wash. But generally, we don't need these harsh antibacterial chemicals in our day-to-day sort of life.
Okay.
Just sort of simple soap and water does the trick.
Yeah, it does. It actually, and just wash your hands, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other one I wanted to touch on as well. So we covered the eczema, which is really, as you said, it's a gut problem, and eczema is just the result of the gut problem. But ADHD, let's talk more about that and food, because I feel like ADHD, I don't have an ADHD kid, but some of my friends do, and my knowledge of it is very limited, but I think it's more of a behavioral thing, or maybe a brain chemical thing. I'm not 100% sure. So what's your take on it, and why is food important with that particular issue there?
Yeah, so ADHD, you're right, it's a brain-related condition. It's sort of classed as a neurodevelopmental condition. It's hugely on the rise. You think back to when we were at school, maybe there was, one child in the whole school that had ADD, it was called back then.
Yeah.
And now there's, one or two in every class. So the conditions like ADHD and autism as well, these are kind of both neurodevelopmental conditions, are hugely on the rise, and we're not really sure why. There's a genetic component. There is definitely better sort of diagnostic procedures happening, so that can account for some of the rise. but diet and lifestyle, I think, have a big part to play when it comes to both autism and ADHD. And it's not that parents are doing anything wrong. It's just that, we live in a world where kids are, our diet's not the same as it once was. And, there's lots of toxins and chemicals within our environment that some of them we don't even have control over, the exposure that our kids are getting. So when it comes to diet with ADHD, the first thing that I sort of focus on generally is the food additives. Now, these aren't necessarily causing ADHD, but they definitely contribute to the symptoms. So, the angry outbursts and the behavioural challenges and the attention challenges as well. So we look at, making sure that these kids are not ingesting some of the sort of dangerous food additives, the food colorings, the preservatives, the artificial sweeteners, those sorts of things. I'll give my ADHD client families like a printout of the AFC free diet, and you can actually find a bit of information of this online, which stands for additives, flavorings, colorings, and this sort of outlines the more sort of the additives that are having the most negative effect on kids' behaviour and attention. I've actually got some blogs as well on Natural Super Kids about diet changes for ADHD, but the additives is definitely where I start.
So when someone gets their kid diagnosed for ADHD, would your kind of recommendation be to try the food thing first before just the drugs, I suppose? Medicating. So I personally feel like I don't want to medicate my kids. Like that is like the last resort for me. Like other people might think differently, but for me, I want to try everything before we go to the medication.
Yeah, and I agree. And obviously that's a very sort of personal choice, and me and you haven't lived with a child with ADHD. No,
I haven't. Yes. Disclaimer.
So I think the parents that I see are often looking for an alternative, that they're the ones that don't want to medicate their kids. And then I do see, a group of clients as well that kids are on medication, but they want to be doing the right thing with their diet and trying to wean them off the medication as well. So they can definitely go hand in hand. Like if you do choose the medication for ADHD, you can certainly still get benefits from changing their diet and lifestyle. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, it's depending on the severity of the symptoms, but it is always good to sort of try the diet changes. And it's not just diet changes. There's lots of nutrients that can really help in terms of supplements that can help with ADHD. Omega-3s and zinc are probably the two most important ones.
You love zinc, don't you? You've mentioned zinc. Zinc is your thing. That's your jam.
Zinc and probiotics. I think anytime that I'm doing a Facebook Live or a podcast interview, I will never not mention zinc and probiotics.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so let's just take a quick turn back to business. Whereabouts do you get your business information and why?
Oh, okay. So lots of different places. So I'm a big podcast listener. So I listen to podcasts a lot. So, I get lots of information and inspiration from podcasts. I'm not in a mastermind or anything, but I do work with business coaches on specific things that I want to get done. So I've recently just sort of finished a coaching package with a lady called Melanie Miller. And she's helped me sort of create an evergreen program and funnel for my business. So I had this 6-week program called Natural Super Kids, and then I have this membership program called Natural Super Kids Club, and then my business is Natural Super Kids. So it was all a bit confusing. So what I did is and the other thing was there was a lot of overlap in what was sort of covered in my 6-week course and then what was included in my membership. So I wanted them to be sort of standalone programs. And so I stripped back my 6-week program and made it just about food. I've got these sort of great videos of me in the kitchen showing mums how to, cook and prepare healthy lunch boxes and breakfasts and that sort of thing. So what I did with Melanie Miller is I sort of stripped back that 6-week program and I've put it into an evergreen funnel, which we only started a couple of months ago. So that's been an interesting process. I also, work with different consultants that I get business information from. So my Facebook ads lady is Jane Day from Webinize, and she does my Facebook ads, but she's a real go-to person for me when I need to troubleshoot an issue that's, those inevitable issues that always happen in a launch. And so, she's a go-to person for me to get information and advice from.
Yep. Awesome.
Where else? Facebook groups as well. So Facebook groups that are linked to online programs that I have purchased in the past. So I don't know if you've heard about Stu McLaren and Tribe.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I've heard it isn't Tribe. I thought Tribe was a influencer platform, but maybe it's a different...
I think it is actually, but I'm talking about Tribe, the program, which is all about creating and launching a membership site. So that I did that program just before I launched my membership site, and he is you must check him out. He's great. So the Facebook group that goes along with the Tribe program is a really supportive place where you can get sort of information and advice about membership programs. So I guess it depends what information I'm looking for. But yeah, I will regularly be posting questions in there too.
Awesome. And what's one area of your business you would like to improve, and why, and how do you propose to do it? It's like a 3-part question.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Making me come up with, an actionable step. So I mentioned before that I was doing everything in my business myself until mid last year. I'd have the odd sort of contractor come in to do something, but until mid last year, I decided, right, I really need to take the step and find, a good virtual assistant. I'd had some dodgy experiences in the past, so I'd kind of given up. So I hired a virtual assistant who's still my virtual assistant now. She does about 20 hours a week for me. And then I hired also a nutritionist who is a writer. So she converts. So I do a Facebook Live every week. I'm really consistent with that now. That's kind of my content that I'm putting out there every week. And she converts that into a blog post for me. So that's just been an amazing, because that allows me to get both a Facebook Live and a blog post out every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I was struggling to get out a blog post every month.
Yeah, it's hard work.
And then I also hired another nutritionist who creates the meal plans and recipes for the Natural Super Kids Club. So that was a huge relief as well, because I love cooking, but actually to then write the recipe out and take a beautiful picture, it's just really time consuming and it's not my specialty. So anyway, this was a long-winded way of saying that I've got these 3 amazing women on my team now, but I've got some plans of building my team further this year. So that's one area that I'd really like to improve.
Yeah.
And the other one is organisation. So I am, in the day-to-day running of my business, since I've had these 3 awesome ladies join me, I've had to become more organised, which has been great. But my launches are still very chaotic, which I'm in the middle of right now.
I think they are, though. I think unless you've done them 20, 30, 40 times and you get into a rhythm, they're just going to be like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. So
yeah,
and also
there's just so many.
Sorry, I was just going to add also, when you've got people that are working for you, you need to make sure that they're productive. I was going to say busy,
yes,
but busy is not necessarily a good word to use. But you got to make sure that they're productive, working on the right things, and that's probably forcing you to be more organised, which is a good thing.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like I've nailed that in the general day-to-day, but when the launch comes up, there's obviously all these extra tasks that I need done that my VA has never done before. So I've got to I'm still in that mode of like, oh, I'll just do it myself because it's going to take me too much time to explain it to her, and then you know what I mean. It just feels more efficient, especially when there's that sort of deadline looming of it has to happen by tomorrow. So I definitely need more systems and procedures around my
Your
launches.
launch.
That's another big area that I need to improve.
So I think like when you are doing those tasks yourself, because like you do have time pressure, can't you in Zoom just record it and then boom, you've got a training register?
Yes, and so that is what I've been doing.
Oh, cool.
And so I actually use Loom. I don't know if you've heard of Loom. It's a little video plug-in for Chrome. So you can just click on it and screen share what you're doing. And this is what I use to train my VA. Like I just show her what I'm doing and then put it in Asana in a little sort of training folder. And then at least next time she can do it. So I think when you hire people, it takes a while to be offloading these tasks because you don't, especially the launch task, because you're not necessarily doing them every week, So this is only the second launch that my VA has been involved in. And the first one, she was really new, so she really didn't do much in the launch at all. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to my launches becoming a lot more organised.
They will be. Everything changes. Okay, I've only got 3 quick questions and then I'll let you get on with your day. Which would you prefer, vampire or werewolf? Sorry.
Neither really. I'm not really into vampires or werewolves, but I'll say vampires because I did enjoy that series True Blood. Remember that?
Yes, I remember. It was great. I loved it.
I loved it too.
I always wanted to be a vampire because then you don't have to sleep and like you could just work all the time. That was my reasoning behind it.
I don't know. I love my sleep.
So yeah, as humans, we love it. But if you're a vampire, you don't need it. You don't need it.
You didn't need it. Imagine how much we could get done.
I know. Well, that's what I was thinking. Okay, Netflix or Stan?
Netflix only because I've never tried Stan. I actually was talking to my kids the other day saying maybe we should cancel Netflix and try Stan for a while. They weren't so keen. They wanted Stan as well.
You know what? If you get Netflix and Stan and maybe Presto or something, it still wouldn't equal the subscription of a Foxtel. So why not?
Yeah, it's so cheap, isn't it? Aren't we so lucky these days to have, all of that entertainment for such a cheap price?
On demand. Don't have to wait for the day. I remember this would have been close to 15 years ago when Lost was first released, and it used to play on a Thursday night. So at 8:30 on a Thursday night, I make sure I do all the food shopping because Thursday nights, late night shopping. So I do food shopping and then I come home and have a shower, eat dinner, and then be sat down for 8:30 at Lost. That was like our routine. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, I know. And now we can just sort of press play whenever. And it's so nice, isn't it? Because, if the kids take longer to get to bed or whatever, you're not going to miss out on your favourite show anymore.
Also, when I was younger, there was Fat Cat at 7:30. And when Fat Cat came on the TV, boom, you go to bed. Now, it's like, where's the reminder for the children? Fat Cat's on the TV, go to bed. Now it's like, oh...
We need to bring back Fat Cat. Although I think my kids are a bit old. I don't think my 11-year-old son's going to be too into saying goodnight to Fat Cat at 7:30.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm past it as well with 6 and a 9-year-old. And last question: product-based business or service-based business?
Well, of course, I have to say service for sure. But I am quite passionate. I feel like giving people, the information and the support that they need is much more powerful than any, product that they could buy. I know products can make a big difference in people's lives too, but I have a service-based business, so I've got to have to say service.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for being on the Busy Mum podcast this morning. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you and everything about nutrition. It's great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Busy Mum podcast. Don't forget to let your friends know and also subscribe to the iTunes channel and also my socials if you want to see what I'm getting up to. A brand new episode is out every Monday morning, just like clockwork.